Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And here we are at the top of the show. We're recording in the middle of the day. I mean, you find that sometimes you both are not working and you decide that you can record at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
All rules have went out the window. Me and Tim are just pure chaos. Just kidding. No, it just happened. We were both off today.
Exactly. So here we are at 3 o'clock. It's going to be a great show, I am sure. So here we are at the very top of the show. Now, Joy, you had some music news or an item you wanted to discuss?
Yes, I do have some music news. Now, this caught my attention mostly because if you know anything about Tim, you know his dedication to physical media. Apparently this year, they have seen an increase in physical media being purchased. Specifically in the UK, it was a big push from what I gathered, but it increased by 17.4 million people buying. And they're attributing this to female artists. So apparently the music has been on a downslide for, physical media has been on a downslide for about 20 plus years, right? And in the last year, because of the artists of Taylor Swift, Sabrina Carpenter, Charlie XCX, and Billie Eilish, I already say her last name, for some reason that they kind of like promoted the physical aspects of like the actual record. Mm-hmm. Like Taylor Swift does that a lot. I know there was the Brat Summer thing with Charlie XCX. It did translate, and they have seen an uptick in people buying physical media.
Interesting. I think what it boils down to is that people treat it as merchandise. Now, everybody has YouTube, everyone has Spotify, Amazon Music,
Tim makes a good
all that
point.
kind of
It's
stuff.
more of a collectible.
Yeah, so you often find people who are buying this stuff don't even have a mechanism to play it, especially like with the K-pop stuff, where a lot of that stuff comes out on CD and there's CD box sets and very inventive packaging and stuff like that. You find that a lot of the people who are into that have no method of playing it, but they want to buy it as a collectible, just have it as like a keepsake of the artist they like.
And I think Taylor Swift and the one I think of is Charlie XCX, they had like very specific artwork and like details and like, you know what I mean, Tim? And that was part of like the Tortured Poet Society was Taylor's album this year. And if you see the detail on like the actual vinyl or if you bought the CD, there was a lot of extras in it too. Mm-hmm. So I think Tim's right. I don't necessarily believe people are buying it just to pop it in their record player, their CD player. I don't even have a CD player. Wait, no, I do. Tim gave me one. Somewhere's in this house, there's a handheld CD player sitting somewhere that Charles got from Tim. But with that being said, I do have I have a record player. Like I can play vinyl, but it mostly just sits. And I find it funny you say that because in some way I do the same thing. All my vinyl records are set up really nicely, like pretty, so you can see them. And that's pretty much what they do. They're just there for look. It's like a bookshelf. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Which isn't a bad thing, but I think Tim's right. It's probably more of that. But I just thought it was cool that they seen an upkick, and it was because of women.
There we are. Fantastic. Now, another thing that I've heard about with regards to physical media is that DVDs and Blu-rays seem to be making a sort of comeback too. And the reason being is that at one point you just had Netflix, and Netflix was one subscription. It was like about $6 and basically everything was on Netflix, it seems. Then every media company, Disney, CBS, NBC, Discovery,
they all have their own apps that take your bank account money.
Yeah. And then it's weird, like Discovery content will be on Peacock and then like NBC content will be on Paramount. And it's a complete mess. But the upshot is that say if you wanted to watch a certain show, it means either you're going to have to subscribe to a different content provider or it just evaporates. Now, as you know, I'm a big fan of Knight Rider. We've covered this a lot. Okay, and I have all Blu-ray rips of Knight Rider, and I've all got them on my computer, I'm on my media server, that's how I watch them, it's fine. But I just thought to myself, well, I wonder if they have the 4K version of Knight Rider on Peacock. Now, Peacock is an NBC subscription service that I subscribe to for wrestling. And
I just realized it is NBC because of the Peacock.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
I've never made that reference. I knew that, but I never thought about it until you said it. Continue, Tim.
Well, so Knight Rider is an NBC show. It aired on NBC. It's NBC Universal, blah, blah, blah. Peacock is the NBC streaming service. You would think an NBC show that they have in their catalog would be on their streaming service. No, it's not there. I can go and Google something and buy it for $2 an episode, or was it YouTube TV or something like that.
Somebody else has it, basically.
Yeah, it just makes no sense. So as a result of that, a lot of people are sort of waking up to the fact that stuff that they love and stuff that they want to rewatch time and time again just evaporates and you can't find it. So people are finding out that if you buy DVDs and buy Blu-rays, you get it forever.
Woo! I mean, it makes sense. The other thing is like, when people were talking about cutting the cord, right? Like we're getting rid of a lot of cable-based TV. And I know Tim is very anti-cable-based TV to begin with, but when you do that, you have to have, like Tim saying, to watch like an accurate amount of shows that you'd like, you have to have 7 different services that you're paying $6.99 here, $14.99 here, $11.99. It starts to add up very quickly, and it's almost just as expensive as cable TV in some ways.
Yeah, you're once again back into the realm of cable and the price for that. I mean,
unless you're Joy and you just get an antenna.
Yeah, as I said, it still blows my mind that you had an antenna.
I have a digital antenna. I've just picked it up for $20 one day. So for those of the people who are not in America who are listening to this podcast, we have quite a few people internationally listening. NBC, ABC, CBS. So you've got like your national broadcasting, American broadcasting. What does the C one stand for, Tim? CBS. I don't know. Something broadcasting. Those are all what's known as our local.
CBS is Columbia Broadcasting System.
Oh, that's what that one is. They're all known as like our local channels, and that's where you get like the Hulk, I guess, the bulk of like your TV shows that are popular, right? Mm-hmm. And so you can get those for free on an antenna in our country, and I'm probably the only person who takes advantage of it. There you go. That's I paid $20 for the antenna when I was walking through Walmart one day, but like different, and I only use it, to be honest, Tim. I don't use it unless like the Super Bowl or something big is on that I want to watch. Mm-hmm. Then I turn it on. But other than that, it's not like it sits on my house all day.
Yeah, I've got no method of receiving broadcast TV in this house. The only thing we have is like YouTube. And like when we watched the ball drop for New Year's Eve, I just went on YouTube and found a live stream of that.
That's what we did too, to be honest. I didn't turn it on the antenna because we were at my desk anyway. I was in a live Zoom with a bunch of people, so we were all watching it. And we were talking about different balls dropping in different countries. But I will say, you know what I was thinking I probably should invest in, and this is very end of the time world prepper type thing, just a regular radio. Because I feel like if everything else goes down, you probably should have like a radio.
You have an Android phone. It probably has an FM radio built in it.
I'm sure it does. I mean, there's apps that you can download, but I've never really thought about it. But I feel like I should probably just get, like, what if the battery dies? You know what I mean, Tim? And I've been, like, into times.
Well, you have a radio in your car.
Yeah, but what if gas? You know what I mean? What if the battery? I'm just saying, like, should I have it? But then again, I mean, I would need electricity of some sort and batteries for the radio. So regardless, just thinking to myself, all right, well, I'll get on my doomsday prepping later. Let's get into the episode, Tim. Oh, no, do you have music news? Sorry.
I have one music news item. And this one came out on January the 1st. This is Neil Young. Now, Neil Young is a man who's always writes songs, and he's not afraid of protesting. I saw this news.
I wondered if you were going to bring it up. I saw this little bit. Yeah,
he's not afraid of protesting. He's not afraid of speaking his mind. And his entire career has been that, making statements and things that's important to him with his music. Yeah. Now, he was set to play the Glastonbury Festival in 2025, this year, with his band, which are called the Chrome Hearts. And, he's an older gentleman, but, he still pulls the crowd, and he's the legendary Neil Young. And he said, the Chrome Hearts and I were looking forward to playing Glastonbury. It's one of my all-time favorite gigs. But he said, we were told the BBC is now a partner in Glastonbury and wanted us to do a lot of things we were not interested in. And he says, Glastonbury now seems to be completely under corporate control, and he's pulled out.
You know what I wonder? Does Neil Young sell his tickets on Ticketmaster?
Well, I think he was one of the artists who was very much against Ticketmaster. That's what I thought. When they were called something else, when they called Live Nation or
they were originally Live Nation. Yeah. Remember, that's when they were under that when they did the Live Nation concert series or whatever. That was them. That was kind of the start before and I think they became. Remember, I know this because we did the episode. Like two became one, basically. Two companies came together. It was Live Nation and something else to make up Ticketmaster. But it would be interesting because if he's going to stand up against, you know what I mean, the system, stand up against Ticketmaster, Neil Young.
No, he's decided to stick it up against the BBC. Now, I am no fan of the BBC. I've never paid a TV license. I choose not to watch their content. I don't like how it is basically forced taxation.
Are they like a conglomerate, I guess, in the sense in that Britain? Because like it's not like I'm seeing a whole lot of BBC material here.
The problem is if you live in England, you can't escape it. And if you have a television receiver in your house, you have to pay a tax to the BBC. Even if you only ever watch Sky or anything like that, you have to have this TV license, which is like £200 a year.
So do they control all TV? Like, I don't understand why does one channel have a tax? I'm confused.
Well, the BBC, it's public.
It's broadcasting, right?
Yeah, it's supposedly public service broadcasting.
Oh, so like PBS in a way.
Yeah, equivalent of PBS, NPR, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but we're not paying anybody anything for that.
Yeah, but it doesn't carry ads in the UK. So it is paid for by a tax. And the way the tax works is that if you have a television receiver in your house that's capable of receiving BBC transmissions, you have to pay them a fee of about £200 a year. And and I said, it doesn't matter. If you have a big TV receiver in your house and all you ever do is watch ITV or Channel 4 or Channel
Sky
5.
or something, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You still have to have a TV license. It's like forced taxation. And the thing is, these days...
Now we know why Tim's an American now.
Yeah, I mean, if you like the content and you're happy to pay for it, enjoy it. It's fine.
Weird.
But if you're somebody who doesn't want that content and doesn't want to support that, there's no escaping it.
But the thing is and I mean, like I said, I'm very pro while we threw the tea in the harbor type person, but it blows my mind. This is weird. This kind of sends me for a loop. Just like when Tim told me about the time that basically there's a tax that you have to pay every year to the royal family.
Well, it's not really included. It's not like a separate tax. It's included in income tax and stuff.
Still, why? Is it just paying for them to be royal?
I mean, effectively.
Like, what am I paying? I see, and that's why we can't do that here. People be like, what am I paying? What is this?
I mean,
we can't even get health care, more or less paying a royal family.
Yeah, I think what it's seen is it's like culture of the nation and tourist attraction and all that kind of stuff.
But I mean, I guess that could be equivalent to like, I'm sure some of our taxes go to like state parks and stuff.
Sure, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you love the Royals, enjoy them. I'm not really a fan of the Royals.
I'm not saying I'm a fan or not. It's just weird to me. What else, Tim? If there's one other weird tax that happens in the UK that you think would surprise me, what would it be?
Well, I mean, you have council tax. I mean, I suppose it's the equivalent of personal property tax, I suppose. And if you live in a house in England, whether you own it or whether you rent it, you will pay a tax every month for that, depending on where you live in the country. And when I had like a tiny little, what they call it, bed sit.
You just have to send it in yourself? Like it's not coming out of your check automatically or anything?
No, this is something separate. So you would have you pay your income tax like you normally do on your the money that you earn. You pay sales tax, VAT, on things that you buy. Yeah. And then you have to pay council tax every month. Now, the local authority, I used to live in the London Borough of Hounslow. The London Borough of Hounslow will send you a bill every month. And if you're a single occupant or whether you're a family...
I guess it's just like your electric bill coming in every month.
Yeah. And I mean, I used to live in the rinky-dinkiest little bedsit or small apartment,
like
if you will.
Flat kind of thing?
Yeah, tiny little thing. And I used to get a slight discount when I lived alone. But when Hannah and I were living there, it was around $200 a month.
Wow.
And that supposedly pays for your council services, for your rubbish to be collected, for the police, that kind of stuff.
It seems so expensive because trash pickup in America is like, yeah, if you pay for it, it's super cheap. So a lot of times it's with your sewage and your trash pickup and like water all come in one bill, like most of the time, right, Tim?
Yeah.
I'm not crazy. And I mean, those three together is like, what, $30 a month, maybe?
Something like that. But yeah,
no, I mean, it's so cheap, I don't even notice it.
And the other thing, of course, is sales tax. VAT is 20% across the board.
Wow, on everything? Or
More or less everything.
What about, like, is it that just sales tax at the store or prepared food, or how does that?
I mean, you don't know what's included and what's not included because
How did we
when
get
you
here?
because when you buy anything in England, the sales tax is included in the price. So
Yeah, you don't know for sure what it
so
is.
folks who
Yeah.
don't know, if you live in the United States, you go into a shop and there's a price on the shelf, and that doesn't include sales tax. So when you get to the counter to pay, if it was $10, say, it might be $10.57 or something by the time you get there.
Yeah. Just add an extra 50 cents to pretty much everything you're looking at.
Yeah. Whereas in England, every price you see posted is the exact price that you pay. So some items don't attract.
Which I prefer. Yeah.
Some items don't attract VAT. Some do attract VAT, but you don't really know unless you look it up because you only ever see the final price.
I guess in some way, though, that as annoying as it is here to have to keep an account for taxes, it does allow for a little bit more transparency.
Yeah.
But I will say it's annoying. And we have so many different taxes. And like what's crazy is I live in Bradford and Tim lives in Christiansburg. And Christiansburg has a higher tax percentage on like prepared food. So let's say I go to McDonald's and I get some French fries. Here, it's going to be cheaper than it is for Tim. And Tim's literally 15 minutes away from me. But one thing, and as much as I don't care for him, our most recent governor, he did take away, like, do you know, like at grocery stores now, we only pay like a few cents in tax. Like it was one of his big policies he did. It's not bad. I don't know where the money that they were getting from that is coming from now, but or what it was paying. I can't tell you, but it stops coming through. So that's something, I guess.
Well, I think the state of Virginia had a huge budget surplus, so they're probably working through that, I'd imagine.
That's probably true. And one interesting thing is like for us, like the lottery pays for school systems and things like that. So anyway, all right, we are not an economy. I think it's funny now that everybody's talking about tariffs and like everybody's like learning what tariffs were. And we just had an episode about 3 weeks ago before everyone started learning what tariffs were. Tim was explaining tariffs to me because I kind of understood it, but I never really had thought about it until we brought it up. We're educating the people, Tim, on things they probably don't want to know.
Absolutely. Come for the music, stay for the education.
Anyway, all right. Well, was there anything else in your music news or do you want to step into the episode?
No, I'm going to step into the episode. So this week is my topic. And I thought I would have a wrap up of some artists that we've spoken about on the last few episodes. Now, none of these artists, there's really enough of a bigger catalog to do a whole episode on them, I think. But I thought, well, let's put them together and make an episode. So this episode is called Pointer, Twain, Estefan, the Ladies of Pop.
Very, very, very specific. Well, I guess we're going to talk about the Pointer Sisters, Gloria and Estefan, and so on and so forth. All right, I'll let you take it from here, Tim.
Okay, so as I said, we've got the Pointer Sisters, we've got Gloria Estefan or Estefan, whichever way you want to say it. I think Estefan is correct.
I don't know. I say Estefan, so but
in England,
it's not like I'm known.
In England, they say Estefan.
Well, it's not like I'm known for having the greatest ability to say words, so take it with a grain of salt.
Okay, so we've got Pointer Sisters, Shania Twain, Gloria, E. All right, so I'm going to go through each artist sort of in a loop, and we will take it from there. So I'm starting with the Pointer Sisters and the song "Slow Hand,"
which, I mean, great song choice. But I will say, this was early 80s. I adore the Pointer Sisters. Now, I'm so excited to the Neutron Dance. I'm here for it. But when we were talking about them last week, or I think they came up a little bit in my, episode for the last one, is I didn't know they were really sisters. Mm-hmm. They are sisters. I don't know what I thought. I just thought it was a name. And then I'm like, oh, wait, their last name's Pointer.
Did you think they were like the Scissor Sisters or the Righteous Brothers or something like that?
Well, to be fair, I'm terrible at coming up with names, which is why our podcast is called the No Name Music Cast. That was Joy's brainchild because Tim goes, what do we call it? And I was like, I don't know. And that's what I came up with. So I just assumed it was like you know what I mean? Just a name. They liked point dancing. I don't know.
I like point dancing.
There's a Family Guy episode where she's like watching like these people at like a club and they're like dancing and they're pointing and they can't see me, but Tim can see me. And she goes, I know they're having fun. They're doing lots of point dancing. So I guess that's what I referenced.
Yeah,
anyway.
I'm not familiar with point dancing, but I'm glad you've let me know.
Now every time you're watching something and there's like a club scene in Miami, because that's like what Tim would be watching in the 80s, you can be like, oh, look, they're point dancing. They must be having a lot of fun.
Well, the only thing I can see now is that whenever I watch a TV show, mostly, as you know, I mostly watch 80s TV shows. Like I was watching Miami Vice the other day, and they're in a nightclub, and it's all going down in this nightclub, and there's people dancing in the background. But I remember watching a YouTube video about film production, and they were saying that any time in any TV show there's music playing and people dancing, those people are dancing to silence.
Yep, I've heard that before. The other one I like to do, anytime I watch anything remotely with it's got a lot of like background people and a lot of stuff happening like that, I look in every glass surface to see if I can see a boom mic. I've started doing that, and like you'd be shocked, like just like the reflection of a car, or like if they're in a club, you know what I mean? There's a lot of like lights and glasses and stuff. How much you can see if you're paying attention to the crew behind them.
Yeah, well, as you know, I said, big fan of Knight Rider, and there's a YouTube channel called the Knight Rider Historians, where they do episode by episode breakdowns, and they get into a level of geekiness that's even above what I would be into. But anyhow, I really enjoy it.
Okay.
But there's a few episodes where they show reflections from the car, reflections from the window, reflections from a mirror, and you can see the crew behind.
Yep. It's because there's this girl I watch. Her name is, I can't think of her name. I'll have to figure it out in a second. But I watch this YouTuber, and she does a lot of like making fun. I mean, I don't want to say making fun, but she like picks like cheesy TV shows and movies and rates them. And since I don't really want to watch the show, as we talked about on here, Tim, I don't watch that much TV. I like to watch her reviews. Jamie French, that's her name. And she started pointing out the boom mics. And ever since she did that, it just stuck with me. Now it's like a thing. Like, I mean, I don't want to say do a drinking game because you'll die. Just like do water if you're going to do that. Drink water. But just start like making a little check every time you see a boom mic and the reflection of anything. A big one's people's glasses.
Yeah.
Because there's only so much you can do about reflection of glasses. There you go, everybody. All right. Well, we really didn't talk about the song, but moral of the story is I didn't know that the Pointer Sisters were sisters. But I thought they just like pointing dancing. There we go.
All right. Well, let's move on to Shania Twain. And this is the first of the Shania songs. And this is I'm Gonna Get You Good.
And that was kind of her, like, the second part of her career, really, right? Mm-hmm. That's when she, like, kind of came back and was in the, like, a different era. And I remember, was she on the motorcycle in the video for this one?
You know, I don't think I've ever seen the video for this.
I feel like either she's on like a motorcycle and it's very like futuristic. Pretty sure that's what she's doing. And maybe she's just be like chasing the person. But it was like, I feel like there's like with Shania, there's like three kind of parts. And this was like that middle time for her. Like she kind of had like her Any Man of Mine opening, like very Mutt Lange production at the very beginning. Then she kind of disappeared for a minute, and then she came back with this kind of song. Mm-hmm. And like also like You're Still the One, I think was during kind of this time frame.
Yeah, I mean, all of this stuff is on her greatest hits album, which is where I found all these songs. So I think they all sort of lead up to about the same era.
Now, what I love about Shania is, so for those who don't know, she suffered very badly from Lyme disease, and it really affected her. She had like dysphoria, not dysphoria, but it's basically like, it's kind of looks like the word dysphoria, but it's when your vocal cords like start kind of degrading over time because of the Lyme disease. She worked really hard to come back. And when I watched her at the Grammys, when she did her comeback, fantastic. And I just want her to be able to have like that full career again. But it made me sad because, like, I'm talking about all these different eras. I feel like we had to miss out on an era of her because I feel like she would have done some cool stuff with it.
Yeah, I mean, all of the songs that I've picked are from the Mutt Lange, Shania Twain being a superstar type era.
Oh yeah, for sure. I just have like distinct periods in my mind when it comes to her, and like I kind of group her songs together. But to be fair, as we know, there will be no Shania Twain hate on this podcast.
Absolutely not.
It's not allowed. And I find it fun. Like I said, I watched her most recent documentary that was all over the internet. I think I sent it to Tim too, where she was like breaking down like all of her, she talks through it. It's like one of those type ones. And it was interesting to see her kind of talk about how, and for lack of a better word, sexism, really, she kind of broke the mold for women in country because she came in hot. And yeah, she was, she's known as country pop. And some people would say that was a turning point, but she was a country music artist. She just had fun with it. Yeah, and I think that's what made the difference.
And I wonder, do you think she paved the way for Taylor Swift to be that crossover? Because, at the beginning of her career, Taylor Swift was a country artist.
But if you really want to start where that comes from, it came from Dolly. Dolly did that first. It was really Dolly Parton, and then it was Shania Twain. And then I would say you're probably right, Taylor Swift did that too.
Yeah.
But Dolly did the same thing. There was a few songs that there's a lot of songs that Dolly Parton did that were on both charts. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, people don't really talk about that the way they do with Shania. And I think it's because Shania Twain kind of Dolly is wonderful. She didn't really step out of the country mold, right? She still stayed true to kind of like what country music, like I don't want to say like the look, but like the look and the way she acted and some of those things. Whereas Shania kind of like, she went her own, like, look at the video for that. Don't impress me much. You know what I mean, Tim? What other country music video is that? Whereas, like, with Dolly, a lot of hers was still, I guess you could say 9 to 5, but that was for a movie. A lot of it was still very much, there with your guitar, very basic.
That's true. I mean, one thing with Shania's music, thanks to the Mutt Lange production, there was, the occasional steel guitar and the occasional fiddle just about in there, just to give a sort of a nudge into the country world. But yeah, you're right. It really just moved into the realm of pop.
It did. And that's okay with it. I mean, who cares? Like, it's still really good. Like, and I don't know why we feel like everything has to be. And the thing about pop, though, if you want to get down to it, all pop music is what's popular, Tim.
I mean, that's true.
That's what was popular, period. I feel like we have in our mind what we define as pop music, like Britney Spears, you know what I mean, and that kind of thing. But at the time, that's just because she was what was popular.
Yeah, pop means popular.
I'm very anti pop hate. I don't think it's productive, and I think it's kind of counterproductive to music because I find it silly. Because I think that it comes out of pretentiousness, I guess, is what I'm getting at. And one time, Brainy, I've quoted her on the podcast many times before, everybody's always talking about get into your feelings. Music's supposed to make you feel all these things. And she goes, yeah, but this song makes me happy. Why can't a song just make me happy? Isn't that a feeling?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, why does it always have to be, you know what I mean? Like these long, drawn out poetic type things. There you go. There's my bit of music news. I don't know, news? Is it news? It's not really news.
It's music theory, maybe. It's your theories about music.
Anyway, but yes, basically we love Shania Twain is what we're getting at.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be hearing some more about Shania in a couple of artists' time. But let's move on to Ms. Estefan, however you want to say it. Now, I'm going in. The first track from her is Conga.
Of course, which I've said many times. I'm a big fan of Gloria Estefan. And, I'm a big fan of the Miami Sound Machine. Obviously, she's from Cuba. She broke a lot of molds as like a Cuban American artist kind of her time. I don't know. I feel like from what I understand, she was like the first one to win, you know what I mean? So many different Grammys and stuff like that. And I think that she has like this like personality that sells it so well too. That helps. But Conga specifically is the song that I told you one night we were throwing a party and apparently I played 37,000 times on repeat while we did a conga line and none of us remembered it. We may have tried to relive it the next morning because everybody was completely blacked out or grayed out or whatever you want to call it. And we went back on the playlist and all we saw was conga 17 times. And then I had flashbacks of a very probably not as cool looking conga line as we thought it was. I can't not hear this song without thinking about that moment because I was like, and it was my playlist. So I know I was the one behind it. And while I love her and she, like I said, she's wonderful. She broke a lot of molds. I don't listen to conga that much normally in my daily life. So there you go, Gloria Estefan. You have a very special place in my heart.
Beautiful. All right, well, let's move on to we're circling back to the Pointer Sisters.
All right.
So I'm going with the track I'm So Excited. Now, I will tell you one story for me about this track. So there was a period of time when I used to attend karaoke, believe it or not. And there used to be a karaoke place. I forget what the name of the place was now. It wasn't the Chariot. I honestly can't remember, but it was like a bar type place that was on the Great West Road in sort of Brentford type area. Very weird. Anyhow,
Yeah, been there all the time, Tim. Know
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about.
Went with some friends there, and it was weird. It was sort of on a trading estate. It was bizarre. But anyhow, they used to, when I, the
Did
first
you
few,
break in somewhere, Tim? Is this a real bar?
no, it was real. And the first few times I went there, when I arrived, they were playing I'm So Excited, but no, without anyone singing on it, they were just playing the backing track. So whenever I hear this song now, one, I think it's weird it's got lyrics on it. And two, it reminds me of going back to these bizarre karaoke days.
I could see this being a popular. Well, I mean, I've been to karaoke plenty of times, different places, but I've never really heard anybody sing this. But I could easily see this being something people would want to sing at a karaoke bar.
Oh, yeah. And you get 2 or 3 people singing it together. I mean, fantastic.
Because it's not, I mean, the Pointer Sisters have fantastic voices and they could sing, wonderfully. No, it's not that hard to sing either.
No.
And also, alcohol and being excited sometimes go hand in hand.
Absolutely. Now, I do have some breaking news for you in the realm of karaoke. So, as everybody knows, I retired from the realm of Love Shack. I consider that my karaoke classic. I haven't performed that for over a year. The last time I performed it was when I made the video with Jenny on Radio Freak Jam, which is currently posted to my YouTube channel, Tim O'Sullivan Guitarist, if you want to see it. And I consider myself retired. However, in this new band that I've got involved with, Nightwings, they have a female keyboard player. And she's a very good singer, and she's a very good keyboard player. But more importantly than any of that, she has agreed to do Love Shack with me. So I may come out of retirement and we may do this again.
We may. All right. Well, we need to see it if you do. I just thought it was funny. You're like, even better than all of this information about her, we're going to do this.
Yeah, well, I mean...
That was cute. No, it was cute the way you said it.
I was sort of testing the water a bit to see how much they wanted to have fun. And, their set is a lot more party-oriented. It's a lot more danceable-oriented than some of the other bands.
So it's more towards what Joy would probably want to hear versus what Southwest Virginia wants to hear, is what you're saying?
It ticks a lot of boxes. It ticks a lot of boxes of songs that people want to hear, some great songs to play, but also some more party touch. So, for example, we're currently rehearsing the song Celebration, Cool in the Gang, if that gives you any indication. And I thought, well, let me just test the water as I'm early in my tenure to see if they're up for having fun. And I played them my Love Shack video and I said, do you think, when we've learned all these songs, maybe this is something we can do? And the guy who runs the band, he said, yeah, everyone in this band sings a song. He said, why don't you do that one? And then Jennifer, the keyboard player, said, yeah, I'll sing that with you. And I was like, yes, here we go. We're back.
Sold. But it sounds like this band is much more fun than some of the previous things that you've had. So I'm happy for you, Tim, that this is going well.
As I said, we got lots of gigs coming up. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yay. Now, what's interesting about I'm So Excited is, do you know who Kenneth Ortega is, Tim?
No.
So he's like he does like cinematography type stuff, and he directed or was behind the I'm So Excited music video.
Okay.
And I don't know why that stands out to me. I was watching a thing where they were talking about this because he also did High School Musical and he did This Is It for Michael Jackson. But I mean, it's just weird to me that the same guy who worked on High School Musical worked on I'm So Excited. It's a smaller world than I realized, if that makes sense. I don't know why that stands out to me. And the only reason I know about it is because I was obsessed with This Is It when it came out. I went through a phase where I watched that 74 times. But he also does record producing, or not record producing, I'm sorry, concert tour producing, Kiss. I think Michael Jackson, Madonna. That's why I'm surprised you've never heard his name.
No, maybe I've heard it in passing, but it's not a name that sort of resonates with me.
To be fair, he also did Xanadu. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of different things, but I will say he tends to be more on the visual side of it. So that's probably why you're probably not as familiar. Tim's much more on the audio side, but he definitely did a lot with Michael Jackson and stuff.
Interesting.
Maybe you have heard his name and you just don't know off the top of your head, but I just find it weird that the same person who did I'm So Excited worked on High School Musical. There you go.
Fantastic. All right. Well, let's move on to the next track. We're going back to Shania Twain.
All right.
And this is the track Come On Over.
This is one of probably maybe top 4 for me when it comes to Shania Twain. It's hard to tell, though, because I don't know if you've ever, like, if anyone's ever looked at her discography the way me and Tim have, like, because, you know, we did a whole episode to her first and I a little bit, I think, what, 2 years ago?
Hmm.
But it's hard for me to pick top songs because there's so many hits. But I will say this one's probably up there because it's one of her more poppy sounding songs, too.
Yeah.
It feels like it was more of a pop hit for sure.
And it's got like a squeeze box type sound on it.
Mhm. It has a different sound than a lot of her other songs, I think is why it stands out to me.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, I don't have any great things to say about it besides I like the song. Wasn't that the name of the album too?
It
Come
was
On
indeed.
Over was the name of that album.
Yeah.
So that would have been like late 90s.
Yeah,
Don't quote me.
that kind of idea.
Because it had that iconic, she's wearing the red dress, holding her hair up picture.
Yep.
Yep, that's it. It's a good album, and I'm sure Mutt was behind it.
Well, of course he was. I mean,
I still wonder if I wonder if they're, even though they're divorced. Spoiler alert, if you guys didn't know, Mutt Lange and her were married at one point, and they are divorced, and she's married to some guy with a very French sounding name now from Canada.
yeah, Mutt Lange got together with Shania Twain's best friend.
Yeah, I wonder if they still communicate in any way, because he made a lot of money, and she made a lot of money, but I feel like that's soured.
I mean, why wouldn't it? You lose your best friend and your husband.
Awkward. And Shania has like a really weird like upbringing. Like, do you know what I mean, Tim? She had like a lot of tough stuff in her life. And so that was just kind of one more thing she had to deal with.
Yeah, not a good scene at all.
Mutt Lange, if you're listening, we're disappointed. Obviously, he listens to the podcast because we talk
He
about
does.
him so
He's
much.
down in South Africa. He tunes in,
Does he live in South Africa still?
Well, I mean, he was South African. I don't know where he resides now.
Well, I mean, I knew he was, but I just don't know like where he lives to this. I mean, it's not like we talk all the time or anything. But if you're listening in South Africa, we do have one listener who shows up in South Africa on our thing. I don't know if you've ever seen that, Tim. Maybe
I have
it's
seen
him.
that. I mean, it could be Mutt Lange for all we know.
Doesn't say Johannesburg. I feel like that's where he would be.
Well, if it's Mutt Lange, welcome. And if not, if you are our listener in Johannesburg in South Africa, thank you for listening to our podcast.
And if you see Mutt Lange, tell him we're disappointed in him. All right, what's the next song, Tim?
Okay, so we're going back to the Miami Sound Machine, Gloria, Estefan. And this is a ballad. This is Can't Stay Away From You.
This was all like, I feel like for 5 minutes, this was all over the radio. And then I never heard it again. Was it popular? How popular was she in the UK?
Yeah, these hits were incredibly popular at the time.
That makes sense. I feel like she was everywhere and then she kind of faded. But I remember somebody did a really good version of it. She got one of the Kennedy Center honors, her and the Miami Sound Machine did. And I can't remember who did it, but in her Kennedy Center honors, somebody did a really nice version of this. Because you know, those could be hit or miss. You could have great artists or you could have the most awkward interaction you've ever seen in anything in between.
Yeah, I've seen greatness. I mean, like when Aretha Franklin did You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman, when they were inducting Carole King. And then no one had seen Aretha Franklin play piano for 25 years. And she's there on the stage playing piano and singing it. And it just blew everyone's mind.
The one that got me was, and it was during the height of COVID. So they kind of had to like do like a lot of like, there wasn't a big audience and they had very much people separated. And it wasn't like your classic, like they're in the Kennedy Center, right? They like did like different like jump cuts all over. And like it was Garth Brooks. His Kennedy Center honors made me cry. They did such a good job. And I can't remember who it was that come in at the end. Ooh, hold on. I got to Google it. Hold on, guys, because I can't think of her name. You're watching. I'm live on air, everybody. Kennedy Center honors. Kelly Clarkson did an amazing job at his, by the way, but that's not who I'm thinking of. Who is the performers? Because I want to give her the right name because her version was so good that it like I cried for years. Gladys Knight.
Okay.
Gladys Knight and the Pips does his version of We Will Be Free, which is kind of about like, you know, race issues and systemic racism in America. It was one of the best things I've ever seen in my entire life. And Garth Brooks truly looks like he was losing his mind the entire time. Because I love him and Trisha Yearwood. Like as people, I think they're great people. My husband's obsessed with Garth Brooks music, as we've talked about on this podcast, even when he was, his alternate ego. But I will say Gladys Knight's version of was fantastic. Like just bar none, We Will Be Free. Not that has nothing to do with Gloria Estefan, and I still don't know who sang at hers, but hers was good too.
Let's go back to the Pointer Sisters.
All right.
And this is a song which we have spoken of before, but we need to mention it again. This is Jump for My Love. This
is like my favorite, probably one of my favorite songs, and I've sang this song at karaoke myself. I can't think of a better like summary of like that kind of like fun poppy like music that like debuted that feels like you should be driving in a car at all times. But that's how I summarize this song in my brain. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that makes any sense. Is that a good descriptor, Tim? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's got a good feeling to it. It's got a good beat to it. It's very up tempo. It makes you feel good. And like you say, you're driving along the road. You put the Pointer Sisters on. I mean, everything is fine with the world.
And that's when, like, and that only, in 1983 was only, 15 years ago, give or take a few minutes?
The 80s were 20 years ago. We've covered this. The 90s were 10 years ago. The year 2000 was 5 years ago.
All right, then. I mean, it is, so it all fits. If you go back 20 years, this is what I imagine you were doing at all times. You were driving in a car in the sunset with Jump from the Pointer Sisters. Like, that's the summary of the 80s as a whole. Probably on your way to some Miami club where Gloria Estefan.
Yeah, or you're watching season 3, episode 1 of Knight Rider, Night of the Drones, where it's being played in the background. But anyhow...
Well, I mean, I'll take Tim's word for it. You could say anything, and I'd be like, yeah, that sounds right, because I don't know if it's right or wrong. You should start just throwing in little tidbits and seeing if people pick up on it, Tim.
You know what I need to do, Joy? You're probably not even open to this. I will find 5 or 6 really good Knight Rider episodes, and I'm going to send them to you.
Fair enough. Well, I'll watch them if you send me on the transfer website or email them to me. I'll give it a shot. We'll see what happens.
I'll share something in Google Drive. There you go.
And then I can confirm or deny if everything Tim's been telling me is correct.
Well, it's a very specialist niche of things that you would like. As I said, there are people in the world who dress up in Star Trek uniforms. There are people who dress up as stormtroopers. I just obsessively watch Knight Rider every week and collect toys and collectibles. So, I mean, it's just, you just have your interests and it's fine.
I mean, I'm currently wearing a Harry Potter shirt, which is one. I got very many Harry Potter themed things. I got very many SpongeBob things. If you guys don't know this, I don't know that I've ever said this on the air, but I am a huge lover of SpongeBob SquarePants, the cartoon. Mm-hmm. That's a known thing Joy loves and can quote very much every moment of every day. So I have my niche markets, too. They're just a little bit different.
I've never, ever seen SpongeBob SquarePants. Well,
that's what the trade-off will be. If I watch Knight Rider, Tim's getting 3 episodes of SpongeBob. And then I'll give you guys a complete analysis. It's gonna be like a mind trip for Tim because he is without any context. If you just go watching it SpongeBob, you're gonna be like, what is happening? Because it was originally written to be an adult, like an adult cartoon.
Yeah.
And then it got watered down.
Yeah, like Aqua Teen Hunger Force, that kind of idea.
And so there's a lot of like little like libs in it, like little things in it that you'll catch as an adult that you don't catch as a kid, but then you can see where they tried to water it down for mainstream TV. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's why it resonates with me because I love like, American Dad, I love Family Guy, I love South Park, I love The Simpsons and all that kind of stuff. So that's where some of the humor is. But I was also younger when it first came out, so it worked well for someone like me.
Gotcha.
Well, that's my theory on SpongeBob.
It checked all the boxes at the right time.
Yes. And so in Tim's defense, Joy has many of those things as well.
There we go. Good deal.
All right. What's next, Tim?
Okay. So we're going back to Shania Twain. And how could we not have Shania on an episode and mention this song? This was probably her breakout song, sort of. And that's Man, I Feel Like a Woman.
She contributes it as her breakout song. And what she said in like her most recent like the documentary I sent you, she talks so much about how thought went into this video. And so when you're watching it, it's a play on Robert Palmer, right? Mm-hmm. She's dressed and the guy's is like a swap. It's like a change. And that was very purposeful. She talks about how when she wanted female empowerment and to kind of change the mold around the way country, and that's where I was getting at earlier around country music. I was watching her talk about like the way they picked every little item to a T. And she said when she walked out in that like the corset with the white and like the black hat and everything, people just kind of stopped and were like, oh my God, this is gonna, send shockwaves. And it did. And I love Robert Palmer's Addicted to Love, of course. And in some way, I think it's supposed to pay homage to it, but I also think it's just supposed to be like, let's flip the switch a little here.
Exactly.
It's time for a change.
I mean, thing is about Shania Twain, I mean, she's totally crazy. She's combing her hair and she's doing a dare.
She is. And I don't know of any song I don't know anyone in the world who's never heard this song.
No, when we used to play the gigs at the Lakeside Country Club, when we had the residency there with Guilty Party, this was one of the standard DJ songs that the DJ would play there all the time.
Well, and, it's been used in every girls' night related thing or wedding or you know what I mean, something of that nature. There's always some type of thing, and I think at one point they even did like a line dance to it. I'm pretty sure there was like a choreographed line dance that was happening to me, and I feel like a woman. Having
played hundreds and hundreds of gigs in Southwest Virginia moose lodges, I can tell you there's line dances for all kinds of things. Line dances for things you'd never think would have line dances.
No, I will say though, I still wonder, like sometimes I'm like, I feel like they're making that one up. I don't think that they're just going with the moves. Somebody here made that one up. But she talks about how she had to fight to get this like put on the air on CMT back in the day. So in America, we had country music television, which is just like MTV, but for country music. And they tried to put a stop on getting this video put out just because of the idea. And now looking at it, it's comical because like what we see on TV is like 1,000 times worse than anything in this music video.
Absolutely.
It's weird to think though, that was only the late 90s that they were that distinct. You know what I mean? Like that there was that much of a distinction comparably to what we see now.
That's true, but the thing is, country music and the country music audience tends to be more conservative anyway.
That's true.
I don't know. I mean,
well, you know how conservative I am, Tim. No, for everyone listening, that's a hard pass for me. But anyway, that was sarcasm. So maybe for me, it just feels weird. But we've also talked about American audiences are a little bit more conservative in general. Like when we talked about the whole thing with the Super Bowl and how it was such a big deal and we never really got it with Janet Jackson.
Yeah, everyone in the UK was like, what? What?
It's like, and like half the people in the UK just came back from a topless beach and they're like, just walk outside.
Well, as I've said to you before, I mean, in hindsight, it was not right. But, I grew up in a time where you could buy newspapers that every newspaper had a topless woman on page 3. Now, we've lived and we've learned, and in hindsight, that wasn't a good thing to do. But, I grew up with that. So then the fact that you see that on the Super Bowl when everyone in the United States is losing their mind and you're like, so?
I feel like for me, it's less about what happened and more about the backlash where she got canceled and it was such a big deal. And Justin Timberlake got to go on like it was nothing. Yeah. Nobody cared. He was the one who actually did it. Like he's the one who literally ripped her shirt off on TV. She didn't do it, but yet she's the one who they wouldn't let her come back. And she got all the backlash. That is more concerning to me in like the grand scheme of the way the world handles things, right? Though Justin Timberlake has had a little bit of a downfall recently, and Joy is pro Justin Timberlake downfall. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I like his music, okay, but him as a person, he's just done too many things that I don't care for.
There we are. Well, we won't be doing a Justin Timberlake episode anytime soon.
Unless it's just about his downfall. All right, what's next, Tim?
Okay, back to Gloria Estefan. This is, again, from the Miami Sound Machine. This is The Rhythm Is Gonna Get You.
This is probably the first song that I think of when I think of her, and that the rhythm is gonna, it does live rent free in my head. I can't think of a better earworm off the, there are better ones, but I'm just saying, like, that one's, it's an earworm for sure.
Yeah, it's a great song. It's a huge hit in the UK when it came out as well. Anytime you have a greatest hits of the Miami Sound Machine, this is right there. This is your top song.
But the coolest part about those people, I mean, I guess we could talk a little bit for those who aren't familiar with the Miami Sound Machine. It's kind of just like a full orchestra of people who in Latin influenced songs. I mean, Gloria Estefan's obviously the one singing, but the band itself is what kills it. Like the
Yeah.
musicians who play it, it's so fun.
Yeah, and her husband, I think, heads that band up.
Yeah, Emilio Estefan or
Yeah,
something like that.
that's the one. And it was actually his decision to really drop the Miami Sound Machine name and put her out as the front person. The Miami Sound Machine was still backing her throughout all this music, but he saw from a marketing perspective, she was much stronger being having her name out there.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And it was, but it wouldn't have worked, I don't think, without her being the front runner. I do think you needed a salesman of a sense, in American pop music, definitely. So I get it. And this was kind of post the disco kind of age, and they played a little bit into that, I feel, because there was a lot of people who were obsessing over because like what they probably started in the 1970s, really didn't get mainstream success until 80s and even early 90s. But I think that it worked well because it did have those grooves that you heard a lot in disco music with like a Latin flair, but you had to have somebody out there to sell it. So I mean it was very smart on his behalf to make it, because what other bands can you think of? I mean, I guess Cool and the Gang kind of has like a play where they have a lot of different musicians and that kind of thing. But I can't really think of any other band that has this specific of a setup with like the drums and the percussion and the.
Yeah, I mean, as we've spoken before, if you're in Carlos Santana's band, if you're in Kool and the Gang, how does the split work with the money?
You make a good point. Well, I think isn't Miami Sound Machine kind of similar in the sense that there's been like 74,000 members over time?
Yeah, and there's 73,000 members still in the band right now.
It's huge. If you see them on stage, it looks like a football team is standing there. But I'm just saying, you make a good point. How do they divvy it out? Who's putting like? Do you have to get like a certain percentage depending on how much time you play in the song?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I go out and play local gigs, and now I'm going to tell everybody right now, you normally earn $1,000 or less playing a gig in a bar or something. Probably six, seven, $800.
$200 is what I would assume. Yeah,
well, it's in the $600, $700, $800 range, sometimes up to $1,000 depending on where you play. So if you're splitting that 5 ways, I mean, there you go. That's how much you earn. But like if you've got 23 members of the band, and I know they're not playing a rinky-dink Moose Lodge, but even still, you're playing some kind of festival or arena or something, and that's a lot of splits.
So let's just say they make $15,000, and we say there's 40. How many members of the band did we say there were? I don't really know.
Or something, 29.
We'll just go with 30. Each person's getting $500.
Yeah, which is fine. It's more than I earn to play a gig, but even still.
And still, though, you make a good point. And then, but then, with Gloria Estefan, does she get more money if she's heading? Like, I feel like she would get a higher percentage, right?
I mean, you would assume so, but I mean, I don't know what the deal is with that band.
Well, whatever the ins and outs are. And then how much royalties for some of their music over time, because there's been so many different members, just how many of them are out there still getting a 15-cent check every few weeks or something?
Let me tell you, this warrants its own episode, the economics of the Miami Sound Machine.
And or Cool in the Gang and such.
Yeah.
All right, what's the next song, Tim?
Okay, back to the Pointer Sisters. And this is the song Neutron Dance. Now, this is very famously featured in the film Beverly Hills Cop, a film I've never seen.
I've seen it, but it didn't necessarily stick out to me. It just feels like a very 80s movie, if that makes sense. That's what I think of. And I think it was also used in another movie, but I can't remember. It's probably been used in 1,000 ones. But the thing about it is I can't think of a more almost distinctly 80s song. Mm-hmm. But what's funny is I think it's actually written about a nuclear holocaust or something. It has a really possibly weird, when he's saying neutron, there's a reason why he's saying it. From what I read was there's a piece of it, and it was written about something very negative.
Well, it was the 1980s. You had the shadow of that over you all the time. So they've wrapped it up in a very up-tempo pop song. When they're dealing with some pretty hard, heavy stuff there.
I just find it very funny that it's such a quirky, like, you know what I mean, iconic 80s kind of piece of history. And we've talked about this before. When you find out the song that you're singing sounds so upbeat and happy, and then you find out what it's really about, and you're like, huh, all right then. I would have known that. And I don't know who wrote it. I'm sure, because I don't think the Pointer Sisters wrote this song. I've never heard that they wrote any of their own music. I just remember learning that fact as some little tidbit at some point in time of my life. And now when I hear it, that's what I think of.
There we are. Well,
and now all of you guys will too. You're welcome.
Yeah, you'll never hear it the same again.
There you go. Tim's going to be like, so that's what they were singing about. All right, what's next?
Okay, back to Shania. And this is a song that don't impress me much. Now, this song, probably more than any of the other pop hits of Shania Twain, features country kind of instrumentation. It has a steel guitar in it very prominently. And it somehow, even though it had traditional country style instrumentation, it still broke through to the pop charts.
It's an interesting song to me too, because a lot of people love this one from Shania. And I'm going to be honest with you, for me, it's not that great. I think it was on the Come On Over album too. It doesn't really stand out to me that much, but I feel like it's, that line about, okay, so you're Brad Pitt. But what I do think made this one stand out for me personally is not the music as much as the music video. This was iconic in the sense that, and that's what I think works so well and why she did so well, crossing from how it became popular in the pop charts, even though, like you said, it has a country sound. I think her music videos made the difference, because this is the one with her in the cheetah print, right?
I think that's the one, yeah.
Yeah, she's carrying, and what's funny was I learned recently, she's carrying a box or something, and she's walking down the road in the cheetah print. And everybody was like, what's in the box? What's in the box? Everybody kept asking her, what's in the box? She said there was nothing in it. The boots that I was wearing came in the box. It was just a boot box that I was carrying. I thought that was super interesting, because I'm pretty sure this is the one that she's in the cheetah print. Don't come for me, internet, but I'm fairly certain that's right. When I was watching it, she was like, everybody always asks, what's in the box? What are you carrying in the box? Because she's hitchhiking. And then the guy comes up and he pulls up his truck, and she starts singing, that don't impress me much. So you think you're Brad Pitt. And then he does the hair come over to play into the, but I don't know why. It just stood out to me. She goes, no, the boots I'm wearing in the video are what was in the box. And for some reason, it just works. So we carried the box.
Well, you're on set and you think, well, I need a certain thing for this thing. And the director says, what do you have? And she says, well, I got this box. And goes, well, there you are, done.
Well, and it matched the color scheme of the dress and the outfit and everything. You know what I mean? And I think that's why I feel like this one stands out. It says, yes, okay, it has been confirmed. She is, here we go. This is the one where she's hitchhiking. Yes, I just Googled it, y'all. And she's standing on the boot, on the box. That's what it is. She's not carrying it. She's standing on it and she's hitchhiking. And it matches because the whole outfit is the same kind of tan cheetah print thing. And so the box matched perfectly. So, I mean, it's kind of genius if you think about it. It works so well. Also, I love that she's wearing long sleeves and this full dress and what looks like the hottest dress ever and what looks like a desert. It's like a desert that she's walking in. And that dress because it looks velvety. It looks like the hottest thing you could possibly ever wear. So I always wonder if she was probably miserable as no other making this music video.
Well, I would imagine there was a vehicle with the engine running where she'd do a take and then she'd dive back in the car to cool off.
Probably. That's what you usually see. Or rips off the over jacket thing when no one's looking, in that kind of situation. Art, or what is it? Beauty is pain, or pain is beauty, or whatever they say.
So, sometimes you suffer for your art. I can tell you, I go out and play gigs in the summer, outdoor festival gigs in the summer, and it's 100+ degrees outside, and I might work my way through 3 T-shirts over the course of a gig because I'm sweating so much. I do that because, I love rock and roll.
For the love of the music. And it made it. We're still talking about this music video to this day. So she did something right. And I still remember that it was the boot box. All right, what's next?
Okay, so we're going to go back to the Miami Sound Machine. I think we'll do this one and then we'll do one more, I think.
Sounds good.
Okay, so back to the Miami Sound Machine. This is the song Anything for You. Again, another ballad.
She has a great ballady voice though. I don't know that Gloria Estefan is known for having extreme vocals, but she can sing and she has a really nice tone to her voice that I think works well for ballads. So I think that's probably why she has so many. But to be fair, it's also kind of funny because it kind of goes from either like the most aggressive dance music to a ballad to the most aggressive dance music to a ballad. There's not a lot between.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
that seems to be the
she
thing.
does have a very beautiful voice, but as you say, it is quite suited to the realm of ballads.
It really is. It's got like a rich tone to it, and it works so well. Now, Glee fact, everybody, Glee fact. So, Gloria Estefan was on Glee.
Oh,
Shocking,
wow.
I know. So, for those who don't know this, there's a one point in time where there is Brittany and Santana are getting married, couple getting married, and they do like their wedding scene, and their mothers show up, and Gloria Estefan was Santana's mom or not mom or grandma or something associated with that. Don't quote me on it if I'm wrong, leaks, but she was somehow associated with it. And they did a version. And so when they went to the wedding, she sang at the Glee wedding, like she sings in it, and she does a couple of ballads. And then her and the rest of the moms and like family members and stuff do like a really cheesy version of, I don't know, one of her other pop songs, but it's very iconic to me because she's not in very many episodes, but they gave her a lot of singing like time in Glee. And I think that's when I realized how good her voice was because you never really, you know what I mean? She doesn't really sing like, you don't hear her singing like Aretha Franklin or anything like that. So you don't really know. But
Hmm.
in that episode, they gave her a lot of time where she got to sing. And I really realized how great her voice was.
That's fantastic. As I said, I've never seen Glee. I think we pulled it up on YouTube one time after a recording, and you showed me some clips, but I've never seen it. I still want to watch Fame. I'd like to watch all the seasons of Fame, but much like we discussed with about
Mm-hmm.
physical media at the top of the episode, it's really hard to find Fame.
I have watched Fame before, but it is very hard to find. I think you can find like bits and pieces mostly on YouTube, to be honest. And correct, it was Santana's mom, not her grandmother. So she was the mom. But it just stood out to me. She was only in a few episodes and she does a few pieces. She's not a bad actress, though.
Hmm.
Which in some way doesn't, it always makes me laugh when people find, like, you know, they find it weird with like somebody who's on stage a lot is also a good actor, like if they're like a musician. But some of the things you do on stage is putting on a show. So it's really not that different. Like
Sure.
Tim could probably testify. I mean, it's not like I'm sure he puts on some type of show that he doesn't put on in his regular day life when he's playing the guitar.
Yeah, I mean, you are when you're standing on stage, whether you're playing an instrument, whether you're acting, you know, you're
Mhm.
playing a part. I mean, yeah, you know, I'm playing guitar, which I do at home, but I mean, standing on stage and posing around and jumping on
Trying to
bass,
sing Turn the Beat Around, you have to be able to sell
yeah,
it.
jumping on a bass bin and playing a solo. I mean, I'm not jumping on my desk at work when I want to make a point. You know,
Well,
it's
you might really get your point across, Tim, if you start doing.
yeah, but, you know, you're playing a solo with a band. You're showing off effectively.
Yep. So it doesn't surprise me that she was a good actress. But there you go. That's how I worked Glee into this episode. Gloria Stefan was, in fact, Naya Riviera's mom on Glee.
There we go. All right. Well, this is just going to be the last song for this episode.
All right.
And we're going to go back to the Pointer Sisters. It was a toss up between Pointer Sisters or Shania, but sorry, Pointer Sisters won and Shania didn't. So, and
We
this,
talk a lot about Shania already, so it's okay.
exactly. So, this song is the song Automatic.
Another, was this one of their, this might have been like their first hit, right? This was
think
probably
so.
pretty early for them. I feel like this was, if it wasn't, it was probably their breakout hit.
Yeah,
Don't run.
Yeah,
don't know
I
for sure.
remember when it came out. We was on holiday in Chelsea in the south coast of England, and I remember Radio Victory, the local FM music radio station down there. They played this to death.
I mean, it does lead itself once again to riding in a car because it's talking about an automatic. Okay, so that is a debate in my house. So you have, we have different transmissions, right, Tim, in cars. We have discussed this. I say automatic. Charlie, and then I'll say stick shift because I'm from the South. I'll say it's an automatic or a stick shift. Charlie calls it a standard when we're talking about a stick shift from where he's from the West Coast. And he does say automatic. What do you generally say, Tim?
I'd say automatic or manual.
I say manual sometimes, but Charlie calls a stick shift a standard, and I find that strange.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke in the United States, an automatic transmission is the standard. If you have a stick shift manual, if you want to call it, that is very much an oddity. And you can go to any car lot in the country, and
No, but he's calling the stick shift the standard, Tim, because that's what it was in the old days, and that's what his grandparents
sorry,
called it.
I misunderstood you.
Yeah, so that's why it's weird. That's why it's weird, right? He'll say standard, and he's talking about a stick shift.
Yeah, because I've heard people call them automatic like standard, but to call a manual a standard?
It's weird. He does that. He says all the time. And I think it's because Charlie grew up with very elderly grandparents, and I guess during their time, maybe that was the standard. I don't know. But it's weird to me because I'm from the South, and we call it a stick shift. Like, we've got the most, you know what I mean? Like, generic, stick and you shift it. Like, I don't know.
Well, here's a question, Joy. But... When was the last time you drove a car with a manual transmission?
Oh, good Lord. When we were in Utah, we had one vehicle that was and see, I've only drove like two vehicles that were stick shifts. And I wasn't very good at technically. My car is one of those ones now that can be both. I have a car now that's both, but never used the stick shift.
But it doesn't have a clutch or anything.
No, it doesn't have a clutch. So you don't have to worry about killing it, but you can, when we were in Utah, so like 2010, maybe? We had this little red car that Charlie ended up killing. We only had for like 5 minutes, and I drove it once or twice. But my older sister and my dad tried to teach them, and he gave up on both of them. I learned for Charlie over time. Dad taught me a little bit, but then I learned from Charlie. And my dad, I mean, he trains truck drivers for a living, so he's like, 16 gears type guy. So
yeah, the last time I drove a manual transmission car was 14 years ago, which is the last time I drove a car in the UK.
That's about...
Every car I'd had up to that point had been a manual transmission because that's pretty much the standard in the UK.
That's why it's confusing. But maybe Charlie's from the UK. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's fair to say I will probably never drive a manual transmission again because Hannah cannot drive a manual. I tried to teach her. It didn't go well. And so if we're ever going to buy a car in this family, regardless of the bargain it would be, it will never, ever be a manual transmission car.
No, Charlie's pretty good because for those who don't know, a lot of motorcycles, you have to change gears. So he gets the concept of changing gears because a lot of the motorcycles he's had since we've been married, he has to change gears. But it's funny you say that. I have two stories and then I'll let you guys go. Remember we were standing outside one day talking with some friends, and I didn't realize that a lot of people don't know, especially like your 80s bikes. Now, a lot of modern day bikes are automatics, but generally that's a very new thing. Well, if you have a motorcycle, you're probably going to have to be able to change gears. That's just the truth. And so you need to learn when to shift up, shift down. And it's almost a little bit easier because you can hear and feel it a little better, Tim, on a motorcycle. But I was talking with these friends and I was like, and he asked, well, does Charlie know how to drive a stick shift? And I was like, I just said he was on a motorcycle, of course. And like, it didn't dawn on me that a lot of people don't know that people change gears on a motorcycle. Mm-hmm. I don't know why that was like, I just assumed people knew that, but they don't. So there's a piece of information for everybody.
Well, I suppose it's because motorcycles, for the most part, are niche.
That's true.
A lot of people who would have driven a moped, which is probably automatic or doesn't have the same kind
just
of
like
gears.
A scooter. Yeah, they're mostly automatic.
Whereas like your hardcore people who drive bikes would know this, but they're in the minority of people on the road on the whole.
Yeah.
So like the average person who's like, I've never been on a motorcycle, but obviously I know this because I've been in and around bikers and biker community and stuff. Yeah. And I know that. But the average person who's never been on a motorcycle, who doesn't have a family member who has a motorcycle, wouldn't know that they're predominantly manual.
I know. And it was one of those things how like you assume people know what you know, and then you realize they don't. Like Tim's even been surprised when he's talking to me, and I'm like, he's like, you don't know that, Joy? And I've done it back to him. You always assume people know what you know.
Sure.
And it's such a weird thing. And I just remember thinking that, being like, really, I guess. But to be fair, I don't think I knew it until Charlie told. Like, I didn't know it until I was around motorcycles. So I guess that's true too. Now, if you get like a fancy like Honda Goldwing, one of those big BMW bikes nowadays, they're automatics, but they're very, very, very expensive.
Yeah, and they're huge. Like a Honda Goldwing is like a small car.
That's what Charlie had, though. Charlie's favorite bike that he owned when we were in Utah was a Goldwing, but it was an 80s model Goldwing, and that thing was heavy. And so one thing that I guess I had never really thought about when it comes to riding a motorcycle is you have to be able to put your feet on the ground and hold that thing up when you're at stoplights and stuff. There's a lot of weight that goes into it. And then if you have somebody else riding with you, because I rode with Charlie all the time, he was having to hold up my weight, the bike's weight, and his weight half the time. And I'm like, it takes a lot of strength.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing, of course, with a motorcycle, the kickstand is designed to support the weight of the bike, not designed to support the weight of the bike and you.
And if you put it up when you're on it, you could damage your bike because it's probably going to break and you're going to fall over. Like you have to put your feet down and hold yourself up. Now, I mean, you don't, you can balance a little, and it's not like you're not 100% holding all that weight, right? There's some nuance to it, but I never really thought about it. And like Tim's right though, Goldwings are huge. Charlie loved that bike though. He loved that bike. That was probably his favorite. He is not a Harley person or like into like small pocket bikes like those. He wanted like a big cruiser like that.
Yep.
Which is, and those who don't know, my husband was in a very bad motorcycle accident, broke his leg in 3 places and has a metal rod and still fights me to this day on how he wants to buy more. So for the love of the thing, I guess. But yeah, there's my little bit. I don't have anything else to say to the people. Tim, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Just be kind to everyone that you meet.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
To remind me of another day to come.